Your characters have been having a talk. A very serious talk, with a couple of tangents. That was weird. But then they get back on track, and then it goes off the rails again. You don't remember what they were talking about? Your keyboard mocks you, as you've lost the plot in the middle of a character conversation. You should be ashamed. Attack on table.
We got a show to get into, Sean.
All right, well, if that's the case, then welcome to Attack on Table, where Ryan and I just duke it out, and then I have to edit it out because most of it's not good for YouTube. But what we do keep in the video is what is finer in certain aspects of the storytelling process.
And if you guys are ever interested in seeing like what we do creatively and see some of the advice we put into practice, check out our Wow, That's What We Call Poetry videos, or the Tell-A-Tales that we post on Facebook and YouTube. And if you guys want to support the channel, just make sure you strike the like.
And semper scribe. We are here tonight again with Trulee Thompson, author of Wick, recently published on June 1st. Get yourself a copy. Ryan, what are we talking about?
We're talking about dialogue and why you write it.
Which Trulee said, wow. To which Trulee said, my favorite. So what is it you love about dialogue, Trulee?
Okay, I can talk about this so much, obviously, because I love to talk.
Be as long-winded as you like.
Yes. So, if you do know, I'm going to say it again. I write YA fantasy. I tried adult fantasy last year. And the book was okay. Like, the plot was really good. But basically the book sucked. So I took a step back and I was like, how can I find what, not only that I'm good at, but what is interesting to me? Because you also have to be invested into your own story. Mm-hmm. And I teach teenagers for a living. So I know all of the sass and back talk that just goes out of those mouths. And that is how I started writing YA. So I love dialogue, because that is where your characters can really come to life and shine. And through that dialogue, you just get to know their personalities. It kind of helps when you have an audiobook because you can differentiate between each characters. The narrator for Red Rising does a really good job of this, and he switches accents or tones when he is speaking for different characters.
Okay.
But readers can't do that, right? It's in their head. At least I can't do that. It's just all one thing in my head. So one of my biggest tips on writing dialogue is that it's not about what characters say. It's about what they are trying to accomplish by saying something. So dialogue should never exist for just one reason. I always give this example. If you say the council meets at dawn, that's only informative. That is informing the character, informing your reader, okay, there's a council meeting at dawn. Great, why do I care? If you say, if you're late again, the council will start without you. That's conveying three things. You still have information. You now have a relationship dynamic with the character that you're talking about and this council. Like, oh, they know that you're chronically late, so they're not going to start without you. And then three, your character attitude. That immediately tells me, and this goes back to like the show don't tell, which I think we talked about a little bit last time. I don't have to tell you that that character is chronically late, because by saying they are going to start without you, I can pick up on, okay, this character is chronically late. So that is my biggest tip for dialogue, is don't focus on one thing. It should not only be informative. Yes, obviously sometimes you have to give those details, but it should accomplish at least two, if not more things at the same time.
Dialogue. Yeah, I could definitely get behind that. I think we agree that I don't want to say complex in the form of like your word choice or anything like that, but your dialogue should be complex in the degree of what each line is achieving. Like Sean and I have talked about this in length when like editing our stuff or just like giving feedback, and it's like, I like this line because it does this, this, and this.
Mhm.
You know, it shows a little bit of the world. It kind of explains like the relationship between the two people, and it gives a little bit of information about the situation currently. You know, and stuff like that. When a line is doing more work than its weight, that's I forget who said that, but I really love that quote. It's better to have that than to not, and focusing on dialogue that reveals characters, advances plot, maybe creates conflict, builds relationships, things of that nature. You want to focus on how to achieve those in an interesting way, and not just like kind of make it sporadic. Like give it a purpose for each line.
Mhm.
Sean did.
What? Sean did?
You just went quiet. Like you're just staring at it. I don't know if it froze or what. but you're-
Transpire
God
words
knows how
because
long
they're
you're gonna talk, Ryan.
uh-huh.
Falling asleep to the dulcet tones of your bearded voice.
Voice is bearded.
It's everywhere. Screaming infidelities. To go back to the if you're late again, the council starts without you thing, that's a very short sentence, but it does convey a whole lot of information. Do you think that it is a hard and fast rule that dialogue should not exist if there is no higher purpose to what the dialogue is saying? Like, do we live in a world where only two people are speaking at the same time? Is that not immersion breaking?
I think it depends on context. That's my answer for everything.
I think it depends on the purpose of the character.
Right.
I'm not sitting in this camp where it's like, well, you can't have worthless dialogue. I just think you should reserve that for characters that you want the audience to deem worthless. Because it's like, this person is useless. They're not adding anything of value to this conversation.
Yeah.
But
Or
you're
it's
doing that on
distracting.
purpose.
If your main character has something they have to be focusing on and it's distracting. And so that wouldn't be like, just to go back a couple of weeks to us talking about like trimming the fluff out of your book and everything. Unimportant dialogue can be important in the right context.
It also depends. Like, I really like how you said unimportant dialogue, unimportant character. I'm gonna remember that. But like, I've had a lot of times where my main characters say something and it doesn't really mean anything in the moment, and it's twofold. One, it shows the reader that they're really distracted. They're just kind of like blah blah blah, carrying on conversation. They're not really paying attention. So like, through the actions in that scene, that dialogue is still conveying something. Or they say something, we just roll right on it, and then later in the book it circles back to it. So I do think there always needs to be a reason for something to be said.
Sure.
But I'm also someone who, I write a lot of dialogue, and I kind of have to tone that back a lot, just because like I could get chapters and chapters and chapters of just conversations.
Yeah, and I also feel like this is a conversation we're having is more of an editing one than your first draft situation. Like, if you're sitting there trying to create importance in everything you're writing, first draft wise.
Yeah, that's not gonna happen. Just get that crap on the paper, and then you can come back to it later.
Yeah,
or better, it's better to look at a sentence and just go, can I make this sentence do more in its editing? Like, it's not a bad sentence, but like, if I word it a little bit differently, it kind of conveys a little bit extra hidden information.
Yeah, and it's and conversation can be totally valid to have if it. I think what Trulee was just saying, just to me, feels more like it's developing the character more so than it is advancing the plot, and that's just as important to catching your reader's attention and getting them invested in the story as the story itself moving along. So there's a lot of reasons to have good dialogue, but what are bad bits of dialogue that you think don't serve a good purpose or are a lazy way to write?
Information dumping is number one. And I've read so many books that are like that. Like, it's just like, oh, hello, best friend. I just came from my house that is down the road and left of the tree. And oh, my roof is falling in and I'm supposed to fix that. And you know that because I told you yesterday, but now I'm reminding you. Like, that's number one, not how conversations work.
No.
Number two, that's just not all needed in that moment. So that would be like the number one thing.
Sure.
So I have a firm stance against the term information dump.
Okay, let me hear it.
Yeah, I don't like the term information dump because it's misleading. So
Okay.
like what you just described is essentially Maid Butler. You know, you're having two people talk about something that they both already know about for the purposes of the audience.
Yes.
Information dumping, and I like to play with this, and I guess the audience is the ultimate judge on whether it works or not, but I like to write scenes that are distracting, informative, and feel somewhat out of place, just because, and I do it with particular characters. I don't do it with like everybody. But what it does is when a character does this, it gives you the freedom to inform the audience on a grander scale about things that aren't happening right now. And it gives you the ability to paint a character in a very particular way. And so like one instance in Hath and Harrow, one of my favorite things I did is I had some information I wanted to trade about the lore of the world. It had zero purpose in anything. And what I did was mid-conversation, this character who at this time you kind of perceive as like a wise man, Gandalf kind of character, starts talking about the painting above the mantle. And in that, he's dropping some lore. But in the purpose of doing that, he's essentially trying to morally educate the person he's talking to, as using this painting and the lore behind the painting as a wow, the word just skipped out of my brain.
Hard to imagine that happening.
Shut up. A parable. So you use it as a parable, and in that I'm just dumping lore all over you. It's disgusting. You're covered in it.
I think that's fine though, like if that's your writing style. And
yeah, but also that wouldn't work with just any character. Like
Correct.
I kind of set up the premise, like this guy's, this is how he talks.
Context definitely.
He's the lore dude. But also in Hath and Harrow, one thing that you do that I think is interesting, and so it's in Hath and Harrow and the way you write, and I think, you know what, I'm going to backpedal one step and say that if you want to be a little exposition-y and be able to explain things that may not have a whole lot to do with your story, one not so lazy way to do it would be to have your narrator be their own character. You get that from Moby Dick. Starts with "Call me Ishmael." Ryan, your narrator, basically throughout almost all of Hath and Harrow is Grimoire, or at least it was the last time I read it. And
it is. Yeah.
He's a very conversational type person. So there were times where they were moving along and could be, they could cross this bridge, which one time, one or two sentences, it doesn't overstay its welcome. You get a little bit of backstory or whatever, but it isn't enough to derail you from what's going on. You're on to the next part of the plot. And that I didn't find that troublesome or bothering, just because of how it was conveyed. And I think that's something a lot of people don't really do much anymore. I don't hear about it a lot. They're quicker to more just write a story from first person point of view, and it's not the same.
I like to give credit to Tolkien for my inspiration of that kind of writing style, just because Tolkien, and it happens super early in The Hobbit, and it's like a thing my dad read to me all the time, but it's like he just stops in the middle of what he's talking about and you're like, you know what, I probably should explain hobbits. And he goes on and explains them a little bit.
It blew everybody's minds back then.
And what I've picked up from that is if you're in a relaxed setting, there's not a whole lot of action going on, the reader isn't expecting a lot of answers. If you start providing some answers in a quick, concise way that feels almost welcoming and friendly, it's very accepted. and we don't go, oh, lore dump. Like, we don't do that. And so I think that's probably a good key of that is pick your spots. If you're gonna lore dump,
Right.
do it with purpose, do it fun, do it creatively,
Yeah.
and just not in the middle of important stuff. And you can get away with it.
Yep. But, well, so you hate the extra exposition and everything. Is there anything else that really bothers you about dialogue, either one of you?
I think in forms of dialogue, I think there's I don't know how to word it. It essentially, like, the language doesn't meet the time of the book, we'll say.
Yeah.
This happens more often in fantasy than anything else, where it's like you've created this very mythical world, and yet we're all talking in emojis and stuff. And it's just like this is not the world you created. It doesn't make sense.
No, that's a really good point. One thing my editor got back with me before my book was officially published was one of my characters. It is YA, so it was just not said like she was flipped off, but like it was like gave a very like something gesture, and she was like, do you think you could come up with something else since this is an entirely new world? Like, wouldn't they have another gesture? And like that small thing made it feel so much more cohesive. So that is a really good point of taking words from the times and then applying it to the correct setting and time period.
Yeah.
You can also overdo it. I think some people get a little like word in a video about dialogue. Ryan is censored.
Oh, I thought of something else.
Yeah.
One thing that drives me crazy, and really I didn't notice it reading books until I started writing my own, is when characters, like their entire personality, it seems like chapter to chapter is different. So I am, and let me like explain what I mean. Like, I am of the firm belief that your readers or your audience should know your characters so well that even if you took away the dialogue tags, they would know who was speaking.
Oh yeah.
And so like what I tried to do was like give each of my main characters. So like Whiston is the very reluctant main character who hides true emotions behind sarcasm. So like everything out of this child's mouth is sarcastic and it drives me fucking insane. Okay, but that's Whiston, and like he is like that the entire book. His best friend Baz is lovable and he cuts the tension all of the time by making jokes. Like, he's never serious. So like even if I remove dialogue tags, they could have a full conversation, and just by the words that they say and how they say it, you're gonna know who is speaking. And when that doesn't happen, that drives me up a wall. Because I'm like, well, last chapter you were just so sweet and like doting, and then now you're a dick. So what happened?
I agree with you so strongly. I actually like to do it in reverse. I like to try to write without using dialogue tags, period. And then in editing, I go through and I'm like, okay. And I do that, one, to help me use less of them.
Yeah.
But two, so I can go, at this point, I don't realize who's talking. Let me just throw it in there.
I like that. That's a really good technique.
Yeah, I do find that interesting. Look at you go.
I can't tell by your voice, Sean. How interesting, Ryan. Next question.
I didn't do anything to try to hurt your feelings, so that was a legitimate compliment.
I'm so unused to them.
Right. Don't know how to feel right now.
I do have a question. How do you guys feel about characters explaining in dialogue? I already hate it like narratively, but like in dialogue, they explain how they feel about stuff.
Be careful. Don't do it too much. Like, it better be really important, and it better be like not just to the characters, but like it better be a really important part of the book. I think. That's
I prefer that information coming from a third party, personally.
No, I agree.
Explain.
Well, so like a good example, instead of, well, if we take Lord of the Rings, instead of, for whatever reason, Gollum and Frodo having this conversation about like what Gollum feels about the ring, you know, it's a conversation between Gandalf and Frodo, and like how
Okay.
the ring has, corrupted him and how he feels about it, and like, that information coming from Gandalf, it just feels more legit
It does.
than,
It
because
really,
most, I would say, as a basis, we don't really like talking about ourselves.
especially not feelings.
Yeah. What would you say are good tactics for making? You talked about making like your character so distinct that you can tell who they are without dialogue tags. What are your kind of tactics, truly, on like how to achieve that? To give them a distinct voice.
The very first thing I do before plotting out the entire story is to take at least a page, sometimes like 2 or 3, depending on the character that I'm running, and I just completely work their personality. What are their likes? What are their dislikes? What are their interests? What are they not interested in? What is the one thing that they want above all else? How would I, as an author, keep them from getting it? How would they react to that? Just like literally everything that I could think about, like the way they act, the way they speak, the way they talk, and I write that down. So that way, like if I ever feel lost in a scene, which that doesn't happen very often, but when it does, it's really nice to go back and reference that and say, oh, they actually wouldn't care about this because they want this other thing. And that kind of helps me keep it straight on, this is the character who seems really shitty, but had a really bad backstory, and we just don't know the backstory yet. So like comes across as very abrasive and grumpy and blah blah blah. But that's just kind of like a me thing. Like I like to reference the notes, and also like to have that in my head. Like I know these characters before the reader does, obviously. So like
Yeah.
as I'm starting the story, I can go ahead and start to develop that personality and those conversations and those traits, and just like thread them through without saying it black and white.
I think when you take the time to do that with your characters, it really helps with the ability of the reader to kind of sync up with them, because you, like, if you think about people that you know that you've, and just hypothetically think about them in a scenario or whatever, you could think of one person who could be in a really tough scenario and be like, well, they wouldn't do X, they would do Y, without ever actually having witnessed them go through it. You
Yeah.
just know what they would do, and I feel like that gets communicated in reverse when you're writing characters you know very well. It's in their actions, it's in their sort of thought process, and it's in the way that they talk. And that is something like, well, I'm not even going to mention the AI crap, but it's just, that's something that I think just kind of gets felt by readers. There are types of people who use different words and different cadences and everything, and the writing out your characters and whatnot before you worry about the plot is something that I recommend everybody do.
Absolutely.
What do you guys feel like realistic dialogue is actually desirable?
Yes. Well,
Yes and no.
yeah.
Yes and no. Like, go ahead. You go first.
No, I was just gonna say, I think what we think is realistic dialogue is desirable, but like actual realistic dialogue, I don't think it is, because that's full of like a lot of, like I just did there, likes and and information that's unnecessary, and like pleasantries that kind of like build up to the start of a conversation. And I think most readers would just prefer the conversation. Now, trying to make that natural, I think, is a good goal, but I don't think actual realistic dialogue is desirable. I think we find most of it boring.
Yeah, if somebody's using ums and erms a lot, they better be nervous.
They better be nervous. I was gonna say, I think it depends on like the age, because I've read books before where the main character had like a 3-year-old, and they wrote in there every single little syllable, misspelling, mispronunciation of that child, and it was cute at first. After 20 chapters of it, I could not stand it. So I think it just depends on character, age, personality.
No.
But also, yes, you don't want really stiff dialogue. Like everybody has read the read it out loud. Definitely do that.
Yeah. Or have it read to you. There's a bunch of programs that can, emulate the voice for you. I do that sometimes just to make sure that the sentence flow feels good, like to the ear. Because those automated things will read it differently than you personally read it. and I feel like that having that outside opinion works well.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I've done that before where I had other people read it back to me, and then I could like make tweaks on, okay, that's not where that should start and that should end here. And that has definitely helped.
I'm going to make it very general because Sean and I like to branch into storytelling, not just literary stuff, but like games, movies, whatever. So I'm going to branch that out into this. What is your guys's, what character has the best dialogue voice in storytelling that you feel like?
After
You
you,
want
Truly.
specific?
Yeah,
Like-
yeah. I want your specific favorite, not someone else's.
Okay, read the question again. Let me think about this.
What, in your opinion,
Mhm.
what character has the best dialogue voice in storytelling?
I'm not
And
going.
I say storytelling just to branch out from the literary world. Not necessarily meaning like a narrator, but
Okay,
long.
this is the first one that popped into my head, and it was the Joker from Batman.
Ooh.
Which Joker?
Heath
Yeah.
Ledger.
let's.
Really
Heath
coming?
Ledger.
If you'd have come in saying Jared Leto, I would have
No,
gone
I don't
home.
like Jared Leto as Joker. Sorry, Jared Leto, if you ever see this. Blah. Heath Ledger.
Jared Leto just unsubscribed from your newsletter.
Yeah. But I
Wah, wah.
think that the Joker is just an amazing character, and I'm already like obsessed with him and his backstory immediately after meeting him. But then the way he speaks is just so true to who he is and his craziness. But that was the first one that I thought of. So Joker. From
That is a
Batman.
solid one. What about you, Sean?
I thought of because I really don't want to say anything about Legacy of Kain again. I feel like I've beat that nail as deep down into the wood as it's gonna go. But the next one I thought of was actually like Legends Darth Vader, because he could say an awful lot with very little actual talking. Like, and what jumped out to me was that early on in his time, as Darth Vader, surrounded, whole bunch of blasters and everything pointed at him, and they were like, "Give up, you're surrounded." And it was just 2 lines, and it was just, "All I'm surrounded by is fear and dead men." The end. Conveyed a lot.
That's pretty strong.
I didn't
Yeah,
think about Darth Vader, but that's a good one.
that's pretty good. Man, yeah, there's so many.
And they're
A lot
all
of
like
fun
the
ones
best
in there.
ones I think are like the evil characters.
Yeah. They're always so captivating.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah. I mean, there's very few heroes that stick in your mind in regards to medium and genre.
Samwise Gamgee.
I was gonna say Samwise. I love
The greatest of heroes.
He's your good guy. Example.
I love Sam. Frodo was such a dick to him.
Frodo was worthless.
You're a worthless friend.
Frodo sucks. Sam's the real hero.
I'm gonna
There we
go hang out with
That's Sam.
anorexic swamp thing. You get out of here, friend. Since I was a kid.
Yeah, I think I would have to lean towards Dante from Devil May Cry. I like, in the same vein that you feel like he does a lot, like Vader does a lot with very little words. I feel like Dante, most of his stuff is very action based, but I feel like he's just like walking one-liners, and he's always got the quip at the end.
I mean, like
Is that
maybe
an
from
anime show?
no, it's
I'm trying
a
to
video game series.
It started as a video game series.
Okay.
Yeah,
And,
the first
recently-
one was bad, and the second one he said like 6 words. So I'm guessing you're talking about the recent ones.
I like his dialogue. I like it. I like that. I'm a bit of a machismo head, so I like those quip one-liners. Makes you feel like a badass.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the whole like yippee-ki-yay kind of thing. I lean into that.
That's a good one.
I lean into that energy.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I don't know where else we could take this. what do you guys feel like is worse, exposition dumps or unrealistic dialogue?
Define unrealistic dialogue.
Define unrealistic dialogue?
Give us
Yeah.
an example.
Can you use it in a sentence?
Unrealistic.
You don't even know.
I guess it's just not a thoroughly explained question. Unrealistic can mean so many things in context. There's like, is it unrealistic for the scenario or for the person speaking?
For the time.
Yeah. Is it like, well, we're talking about some military guys and they're just throwing out a bunch of jargon that doesn't make any sense? Like, is that unrealistic? Is that what we're talking about? I'm not sure what the question is getting at. I guess unnatural dialogue would probably be better. Like, what's worse, exposition dumps or unnatural dialogue?
I would say exposition dumps.
I would say unnatural dialogue.
Unearned exposition dumps.
The only reason I'm saying that is because already in the beginning of the book, it's already hard for you to wrap your head around who is doing what and where. So then when you add in all that crap, I can't keep it straight. And then
my stance is, imagine trying to have a conversation with someone that you absolutely don't want to listen to talk.
That's also true.
Yeah, I'd rather listen to scenarios and scenery being described to me than that one person just opening their mouth one more time.
Great point.
Me.
Didn't think about it like that.
Yeah, I feel like that's Sean's natural stance on the world.
Okay. Agree or disagree? That conflict makes dialogue more interesting. Not arguments. It's just like these two characters are on the scene and they both want different things.
I mean,
Conflict.
Yeah, it has to get your attention.
I think by the nature, conflict makes it more interesting. I think dialogue that is full of tension is interesting.
Okay.
So they don't necessarily have to be in conflict, but just tension.
Okay.
Because like I said, that one example I gave about the thing where he's like giving like a moral conversation. Like there's an unsettling tension between a person trying to convey something morally to a person who doesn't give a shit about morality. And it's just like, you're preaching to someone that's not listening.
That doesn't care.
Yeah. And so there's just a natural tension in that. And I think that allows for a lot of mistakes. Yeah, as a writer, you can get away with a lot as long as there's tension.
I like that. Good. Thank you.
You're quite welcome, Trulee.
Thank you for answering my question.
Sean's like, this was not supposed to happen. You guys were supposed to hate each other. Truly's supposed to be my friend. She's my ally. Ryan
she
talks
still
to
thinks you're long-winded, and I still have it on recording from the first episode, so I'm happy. I can make my ringtone. I don't care if she changes her mind. I got what I want.
He's done with me now. He got me to say it.
And she was never on the podcast again.
She was never heard from again.
And back to 99 followers on Instagram.
And...
Hey.
Oh yeah, I have to have her
All
back
right.
on.
Yeah,
so
I think
you
we're
lied.
pretty good. I'll say, as a closing note, I think what we kind of agree on is great dialogue isn't about people talking. It's more about characters pursuing goals or revealing who they are, or more about the world they're in, and potentially changing the story, or at a minimum advancing what it is that's happening.
Yeah,
and I think we can all agree on that.
Yeah, it's one more piece of the story that has to serve the story, and if it doesn't, then what are you doing? You should be ashamed.
And again, Sean and I made this distinction. There is a difference between serving the plot and serving the story.
Yes.
And dialogue doesn't necessarily have to serve the plot, but it should serve the story.
No, that's a good distinction. I'm glad that you said that very black and white.
Thank you. I tend to say some things in the spew of words.
They were my words.
Pick and choose a few words and then string them together. There you go.
Yeah, Some people say I should write.
Who?
Get on it.
Dead silence. All right, Sean.
Never
one
too late
last
to start.
question before we go. One last question. This is important.
Okay.
Well, first, I'm going to reserve that.
Oh
Truly,
my God.
you have a book that just came out. You want to let us know where we can find it and how we can get it?
Oh, I have to do the whole spiel again? Okay.
As though this never happened before.
No, this is the first time I've ever talked about this. Okay, so Wick just released June 1st. You can find it on Amazon. It's free for KU users. And Whiston is our reluctant main character. He is a 17-year-old blacksmith who's born into a realm where if you are discovered to have magic, they execute you. So Whiston woke up one day with the first fire magic that has been seen in the realm in over 200 years. To hide that power, he started working as a blacksmith to hide his scars and hide who he is. One day, unfortunately, he's caught by the captain of the army. Rather than execute him, he sends him to retrieve this ordinary-looking rock, but when he touches the stone, he realizes that there is a god inside, and the only way that he could have awoken that god was with the fire magic that he has. So through his journey and self-revelation of this, he realizes that he does not have magic. He instead has a sentient being using his body in the form of flame to try and take over the mortal realm. And that's Wick.
And we can get it where?
Amazon, KU.
Where can people follow you to keep up and build your social following and follow your newsletter and all that kind of
Instagram's
stuff?
the biggest platform that I am most active on. And if you go to my Instagram, it's called Trulee Writes Things. There you can find links to the book, to my newsletter sign up. I do have a Facebook. It's not as great. Don't look at that first. Go to Instagram. There
You'll
you
be wowed by the spectacle of her Instagram.
go. Don't go to Facebook. It's like an old lady over there.
All right. If you guys like what we're doing on this channel and you want to support us and the people we have on, like our lovely guest, Trulee Thompson, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. One big last question for you, Sean. How do we end these?
Conversationally.